How
you doing?
I guess the big question is this Batman any different from how you've done it in the past?
Well, the challenge to me has been to keep it fresh and to keep it real and to not get stale. So, is it different? No. Is it? I hope as good as the one I did 23 years ago. I hope so. The trick to me has been to keep it fresh. And the wonderful thing is working with Andrea Romano for so long. She keeps the perspective for me, you know. And the thing about Batman is that the audience knows more about the character than I do, for the most part. The audience is so devoted, and the legacy is so huge that they come up to me and they go, you know, like, oh, in episode 341, when you said such and such to the Joker, and I think, I don't know what this person's talking about, but it's that devotion from the fan base that if you're false at any moment in anything, they'll nail you with it. You know what I mean? They'll hear it in a second. And having Andreas around is great because she won't let you do that. She's a great censor, you know what I mean? A filter to keep you from getting lazy. Because after a while, everyone gets a little lazy, you know, and you kind of fall into traps. And you can't let yourself. She keeps you in line. But that's been the challenge for me, is to keep it consistent, to keep it true to the character. The trick for me also has been that Batman, the voice of Batman, is not the performance. Bruce Wayne is the performance. That's the face he presents to the world. That's the suit he puts on. The suit of armor that's the mask. When he's alone in the cave, that sound he goes, that place he goes, that's the comfortable sound. That's his base. You know what I mean? So if I see that as my home base, then it's a very instinctive place I go to create that sound, and it stays real. And the Bruce Wayne is the character.
Who came up with the different Bruce Wayne and Batman voice when you were doing the animated series? Was that your idea?
It was my idea.
Oh, okay.
It was my idea.
Well, excellent idea.
Because actors always look for ways to complicate their lives. You know what I mean? They do. And directors usually are trying to get you to simplify. But actors always want to make things more complicated because it makes your job more fun, you know? And so I just thought it'd be fun to have two different voices, you know? Because I thought, look, the guy is the wealthiest man in Gotham. He's the most eligible bachelor. He lives in the biggest house. He owns half the city. Everybody knows him. He puts on a cape and a cowl and no one knows it's him? Come on. That's ridiculous. There's got to be more. In order to suspend belief, there's got to be more to it than that. So I thought, he's got to have a whole different persona that he puts on. So for me, the voice was very important.
This movie it seems darker, but has more psychological thriller aspects, maybe even atmospheric horror.
Yeah.
Were there any difficulties in any of the recordings, just like too personal because
Well, the characters, the villain characters, are very diabolical and are very evil. There's a lot of darkness in the story, more so than I was used to in the previous Batman stories. This one, Suicide Squad they're seriously demented. I mean, they're very evil, and so it goes to an element of the Batman universe that doesn't often get visited in terms of that kind of violence. It's interesting.
How does that change your performance then? Or does it?
Well, it doesn't change my performance. It's just in terms of working on the show, it was fascinating to watch, you know? The trick for me has been to be consistent throughout, all along.
Even if the tone of the piece or the villains are...
Yeah, regardless of what the villains are doing, is for me to be consistent. There's such a clear moral compass in Batman, and to never lose sight of that is really important. You know, because there are a dozen different ways you can play a line. And to always make the choice, the right choice, is tricky. And you always have to choose the moral choice. You know, he's been a very interesting guy to play that way.
Is there anything different about doing the video games versus doing the animated?
Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. It's a whole different world. Because in the shows, you have other actors to work with and to bounce off of and to interact with. It's like doing a radio play. It's fun. In the games, you're alone in a booth for 4 hours at a time, doing line after line after line after line after line after line after line, thousands and thousands and thousands of lines, depending on how the game is played, depending on how they're going to program it, depending on the algorithms. They need thousands of takes of thousands of lines, and it takes years to build the game. And you're alone, and just to keep the character fresh and to stay awake, you know, it's not why you become an actor, to be honest, but it's a fascinating kind of challenge to have, and the result is so incredible. The games are so amazing to watch and to play, for people to play, but the creation of them, they're really technical marvels. You know, they're really created by the technicians. And the actors breathe life into the characters, but we've got to give them literally thousands of takes of versions of lines, depending on how it's going to play. So it's mountains of work.
Is it refreshing then to come back to, even though this is
Oh,
a
yeah.
video
Oh,
game
yeah.
version of the character, it's an animated movie instead of a video game?
Oh, absolutely. Any kind of animated movie is so much fun to come back to. I wish I had a little more to do in this one. This is really largely about the Suicide Squad. But sometimes, you know, Batman can be a man of few words. So some shows I don't get a lot to do in, you know. So I have to do a lot with a little.
Well, I like you as an actor. I remember seeing a movie you did called Island City.
Ah!
Yeah, and
Isn't
I'm
that
like,
great?
where did you go? You're you're a voice, but that's great. This is where you found your niche.
Yeah, I did a lot of
love to see
on camera.
Yeah.
Look, I trained at Juilliard. I was a Broadway actor before this all happened. I did a lot of on camera, but you know, life is what happens to you while you're making other plans, as John Lennon said. That's not the way my career went.
Yeah.
It went in this direction. But I love doing on camera work. And I think I'm a pretty attractive guy, you know. God knows why I didn't get more. But no, this is just the direction it went.
So you've been doing Batman for 20 some odd years, you've been doing so many different versions. Does it ever get any more difficult, or do you have found your groove and it's pretty much like, you know, you can do it?
As I said before, the difficulty is not letting it get stale, because it can get stale. The difficulty has been keeping it alive and keeping it fresh, and that has been challenging. But I think I've done it.
Have you found the Batman voice seep into your life? Do you find yourself just talking in the Batman voice when you're getting some cereal?
Yeah, in my sleep. I do have friends ask me to call and like tell their kids to do their homework and stuff. You know, call up out of the blue and go, "If you don't do your homework, I'm going to come and get you." The kid will be like, "Ah!"
Nice.
It is a powerful voice to be able to control.
Did you share any good time with CCH Counter? And if so, what was it like for you? It's kind of been a while since
I have been a fan of her work since Baghdad Cafe. Did you ever see that? Oh, that was her first film. And it's a kind of an art movie. It's a cult movie from the 70s. And she was fantastic in that. And I've been a fan of her work since then. So I've known her for many years, and she's a really talented performer. Yeah, I was happy to see that she was going to be back in this. So it was fun seeing her again after so long.
So how she was Amanda Waller in the Justice League series. She was Amanda Waller in Public Enemies, and she's Amanda Waller in this. So you pretty much match up with her each and every time. So I guess you two are sort of the classic versions of those characters. And you know, along with they don't have Mark Hamill for this one, but how does it feel to have a returning voice for a certain character to play off?
There is a wonderful relationship you develop with certain actors where you can just kind of fit into a groove and automatically start playing. It happens with Mark whenever we get together. We can sort of define each other in a way. You know what I mean? You kind of fit into a group. But then in this, it was interesting. I didn't think anyone would ever be able to do Joker as well as Mark Hamill did it. And then I saw Heath Ledger, and I thought, oh my God, this is just taking it to a whole new world. And then I met Troy Baker and heard him do it. So everyone brings something different to it. It's always surprising when you hear another actor's take on something, that it's always something you didn't think of. You know, you just think, wow, this is just as good, it's just different, you know? It's a different actor doing it. So there's a wonderful comfort to working with the same actors over a long time, but there's also something very stimulating about having someone new come into the role, like Troy did. It just jars you, gives you something new to react to. Does that answer it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting because you talk about different versions of the characters. It kind of just reminds me of in the Brave and the Bold, he played the Phantom Stranger alongside Peter Bader's Batman. What was that like to hear somebody else do your character that you voiced so long? What was that like to play off of that? Somewhere different.
I just thought it was something really smarmy I could say, but I won't. I'm just joking. No, I'm just joking. No, it's so really. No, it's so interesting. I mean, think of all the different people who played Batman in the live action films. There have been so many different versions of it. Which at first I thought, this is so bizarre that Warner Brothers is doing this. Why don't they have someone establish the franchise? And it was really ended up being brilliant because so many different people have had so many different takes on it. I can't wait to see what Ben Affleck does with it. We'll see what happens. Christian Bale was fantastic. I liked Michael Keaton. They've all been interesting for different reasons. So it was interesting having someone else in The Brave and the Bold do the voice to deal with. You never own the role, you rent it. You know what I mean? And I've had the opportunity to rent it for a long time, which has been wonderful. But it's always interesting to hear what someone else does with it.
Is there someone you'd like to work with that in your mind is a particular character?
I'd love to work with everybody. Are you kidding? There's so many interesting. That was one of the wonderful things about Batman the Animated Series. After we did our 100th episode, they took out a 2-page ad in Variety to thank everyone who'd been involved in the show. And I couldn't believe the list of actors that we had worked with over those few years. It was amazing, the people they got in on that show. Because it got to be known around town as a really great show to do. Everyone wanted to do it. I think it was Ice-T came in to do a voice, and I said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "You're a rap star." He said, "Are you kidding? My kids are going to go crazy when they hear me on the show." And you get all kinds of people to come in to do that show that wouldn't necessarily do it because it got to be so well known. Okay.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thanks for sitting down.
My pleasure.
The Riddler.
Yeah.
Did you get involved in that? Did you want it, or did
It's funny. It's almost like I psychically somehow willed it to happen. I love Batman. I love villains. I've always wanted to play a supervillain, and I got a phone call out of nowhere asking me to play the Riddler, which is a true dream come true.
with Andrea?
I have. I've worked with her a few times. She's absolutely fantastic. One of the greatest directors I've ever worked with, whether it's voiceover or moving image, and it was a great time. We had a wonderful experience. Yeah.
What do you like most about voicing the Riddler?
I like the idea. I love the Riddler because he's sort of so conceited in the sense that he thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and so it's always very fun to play a brazen character that ultimately gets caught. There's a certain comedy to that, which is really fun.
Do you have any influences on Riddler, like Frank Ocean or Jim Carrey?
I'm a giant Batman fan, and from the Adam West series. In the back of my head, I've heard all the Riddlers, but I didn't really try to recreate anything. I more looked to P.T. Barnum and oddly Houdini and some like showman from the turn of the century that I wanted to inform this Riddler, and also to make him a little bit more obsessive compulsive. So a little bit of Larry David in there, if anything. Yeah. The Riddler is really having the time of his life in this movie, in the sense that he's sort of working for Batman, he's working for the Suicide Squad, but ultimately he's just trying to mess with everybody. He's just a super deranged son of a gun who's trying his hardest to just create mayhem, which is the best type of supervillain there is.
Was there any manage to try to make it like the video game in terms of your performance?
Not really. And again, I always try to take the freedom of when I'm fortunate enough to be asked to do something like this, I think it's my responsibility to almost try to create something new. So I did not study the video game or anything really prior to this.
Have you played them before?
I've never played the Riddler before. No, this is the first time.
Have you played the games?
Oh, sorry. I've never played Arkham. No, Assault on Arkham I've never played, but I hear it's fantastic. I know I would. I love it. I just have not played it. I'm sure I would be a giant fan. I love that sort of thing. Oh, really? I love it even more.
Obviously, the script dictates a lot of this, but there are two pretty big, I don't know, points that are interpretations of the Riddler. One is where he's more kind of calculated and scheming and wants to outsmart Batman, prove something. Then the other one, he's just out there Daffy Duck crazy.
Yeah.
Which do you prefer?
Truthfully, I prefer on the spectrum more towards the Daffy Duck craziness, but the hope was to bring a subtlety of sort of a perfect mix of the two, and to have him sort of more motivated, less by sort of, I don't know what the word is, pride, and more by obsessiveness and compulsion, and being like, he's not asking these questions because he wants to fuck with Batman, but he's asking them because he's literally shaking and paralyzed by the fear that someone might not answer this question, and that is the only thing worse than being caught is someone not answering this question. So it's more of approaching the riddles as a sickness.
On Criminal Minds, you deal a lot with obsessive compulsive. Did
Yeah.
you find yourself going back to a lot of what you've done before to bring into the Riddler?
Interesting. Not necessarily. It is sort of interesting to me in the sense that I play a character on Criminal Minds that's also very smart, but would never consider himself smart. Whereas the Riddler knows he's smart. There are also vast differences in the sense that one wants to help people and save lives, and the other wants to destroy the entire world. So they're, in some ways, opposite sides of the same odd coin, I guess you might say. But no real comparison otherwise. They both have noses, and that's about it.
You see yourself playing the Riddler again?
I would love that. I love stepping into his shoes, and again, I've always wanted to play a villain. There's no villain I think I'm more suited to play than the Riddler. So I'm absolutely just flabbergasted that I get to do it. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
All right, let's go.
What is King Shark up to in Assault on Arkham?
Well, he's part of the Suicide Squad. He wants to do his thing, which is basically just be a badass and hurt, maim, kill, whatever he's doing as far as being a villain is concerned. That's what he's doing pretty much. So he's just rocking and rolling in the Suicide Squad. Big old face with the metal teeth.
How do you even begin to voice?
With this, you look at the character design, and he's just got that huge mouth, and it's just so throaty. You just look at it; he's so massive that naturally he's gonna do something. Yeah. So you just kind of, that's, I don't know. I guess just kind of second nature to me, but it's you just go with it, and you do a couple different things, and if see what sticks, see what the writers and the production staff think about it, and then we go from there.
Do you often just see the character design and something comes to you and you feel like this is what they're...
Yeah, pretty much. Or you say, what were you thinking? Like, what kind of a, because, you can look at something and be like, well, I can do this, and this, and that's too much to bring to the table. Like, I can try 5 things. Nobody wants to usually hear that. So, it all depends. But, you get a little direction from the people and from the people running it, and you go from there.
You've been the Joker, Toyman, King Shark. Any DC villains still on your to-do list?
Nope. I'm kind of good to go. People are like, that's a question that I get. Like, is there anybody that you haven't played that you want to play? And it's like, no, not really. Like, I'm pretty fortunate in that I've been able to play a lot of different characters and a lot of big characters, and with the Joker, getting to play an iconic character like that, it's great. And by the way, I think Troy Baker's Joker is awesome. Troy and I worked together on Generator Rex. Yeah, Troy's he's just so good. He's just a talent, just an absolute talent. He does a really great Sam Elliott. I don't know if you've heard him do Sam Elliott, but it's beef. What's for dinner? It's perfect. He does this Texas drawl. It's just too funny, but it's great. Anytime Andre Romano comes crawling or calling, not crawling. She'd never crawl to me. Whenever she comes calling, I crawl to her. That's what I mean. But yeah, whatever. I'm down.
A lot of your biggest characters are not human. Dog, robot, now shark. Do you think that's a niche you found? Why do you think that you get those roles?
I don't know, because maybe as an actor, that people respect the way I have a sense of play to bring to it, and just if something doesn't stick, I'm not going to sit there and go, well, I really like my choice. Like, who cares? Like, change it up. Let's go. We got to try something else. Let's go. And I'm pretty willing to jump in and play and do whatever. I don't know what it is. I've just been fortunate enough to be able to do that. So.
Do you find yourself enjoying playing villains?
Yeah, I love playing villains. They're a lot more fun than the hero because you can just get away with all sorts of crazy stuff. And I love that. That's awesome. All right, did he tap? Where the hell did he go?
I think he was just saying hi.
Oh, okay, good. Because he tapped me anyway. I just want to make sure. Well, maybe he is moving me.
Are you willing to say outrageous once before you go?
Outrageous! Yes, old chum. Outrageous! Yes. Aquaman. Man, I love that. Awesome. Where am I going?
Troy, John was talking about how great the Sam Elliott is, so we have.
That sounds about right. Trucks, Dodge, beef, what? Sam Elliott, man. He shaved his mustache once, and it was just like, oh no, grow it back. That's right, kid. That's good. Well, you have a stroke every time you say his face. Anyway, that's terrible, horrible. Let's start now because that's terrible. What's up? First question. What's up?
So, straight follow-up to Arkham Origins? Did you do anything else with the voice?
No, I didn't want to mess with whatever got me that job. You don't want to go, now watch what I'm going to do. And what's great is when you sit down across the glass from literally the director that the 12-year-old in me said one day I'm going to work with that woman, and the person that's been directing this franchise for over 20 years, you don't necessarily need to do anything different, just listen, because she's going to guide you. She clearly knows what she's doing. So that was a banner day for me, is to be directed by Andrea Romano in a Batman, story, playing the Joker. That's like the best thing. And to go side by side or toe to toe with my Batman. Kevin Conroy's my Batman. So this is kind of the Himalayas, man. I'm looking down on the world on this one. This is pretty cool.
This movie brings back like the Arkham universe that originates from the game.
Right.
And you just did that the last game, Arkham Origins.
Right.
So what's it like being like the Joker for this universe?
Wow. I think we share that, because clearly Mark did that for the Arkham universe as well. Whenever you think Arkham Asylum, you think Joker and you think Mark Hamill. Thank you, buddy. So I think the second I start thinking in those terms, I kind of lose focus, just for me, because I'm so ADD, and that's a really big shiny thing that's happening in my periphery. So what I try to focus on is the story that we're telling, and as long as they'll let me do it, I'll do it, because I think it's literally one of the most compelling characters ever. This is like some Greek shit. This goes back to like Homer and Odysseus, the kind of stories that we're telling with this.
So I love doing the Joker, but I don't want to think too much about it. Again, my head will explode. Somebody else about to ask something. Yeah.
Well, I've heard about actors who play the Joker sometimes having to go to a bad place to be able to play that character. Is that something you encounter?
Well, as the Joker said, we're all just one bad day away. I definitely think that, man. You don't want to live too long in this skin, at a time. You need to come up for air. And I think everybody knows their own little secret about the Joker. Like, Heath Ledger knew his little secret about the Joker. Mark Hamill knew his little secret about the Joker. And I think that's the key, is I know my little secret about the Joker, and that's special to just me. And that's the fingerprint that you leave on the character. But yeah, you can definitely, need a shower sometimes after doing this session.
Have you ever talked to Mark Hamill about your interpretation or his interpretation?
I've talked to Mark endlessly about his interpretation, and he will talk for days about his. I've never asked him about what he thinks about what I did. I don't want to know if he doesn't like it. He's incredibly gracious, and he also understands that this character is bigger than any one actor. He's just as much of a fanboy over the character as anybody. So I don't know. I would like to say that I'd like to think that he likes what I did, because truly what I'm doing is honoring the incredible groundwork that he did. He is the giant upon whose shoulders I am standing.
I heard him say once that one of his children was playing Origins. They brought him in the room and he said, I don't remember doing this.
Well, if he can get that close, I don't remember doing this, then that's a great compliment.
And Andrea Romano, Kevin Conroy, all three of them commended your performance on the Joker. They all had good things to say back to you.
That's huge, and I love what Johnny did in Under the Red Hood. I loved his Joker, man. That was amazing. So, and that's the same thing. Is there's no competition about this character. It's just kind of like everybody puts their own little fingerprint and it passes it on to the next person.
Do you have a favorite Joker story?
Killing Joke. Absolutely, dude. That I know, right? I put my head down on it too. It's just. To me, that is the best cross section of who the Joker is, and that again, that's the whole thing. Everybody's just one bad day away. So I'm glad that we kind of got to pull some of those elements into Assault on Arkham too.
I loved you in Last of Us, first of all.
Thank you very much.
So you said this was your Batman.
Yeah.
What were you feeling just walking into that, ready to...
Waiting to get fired. Literally, I was like, I'm just gonna do scratch, and then they're gonna. Are we ready? Yep. So. That's what I told somebody earlier. I was like, don't pinch me because I don't want to wake up. So, John! Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy the movie, man. It's really good.